Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and welcome back to the show. Today is a Friday episode 65 of the show. Obviously, I'm going to say this now. At the time of this recording, it is freezing cold out here in Lubbock, Texas. You can probably tell I'm a little bit more awake while doing these episodes because I am currently freezing my buns off. So, send thoughts and prayers. It's freezing cold. But anyways, we have an interesting discussion today because it's over something very recent, and it's something that kind of baffles me a little bit with the whole situation. And I'm mainly referring to the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL. This is the topic of discussion for today because, one, obviously the phone came out a while ago, but it's kind of interesting to see how the tech community is very polarized about this. And we'll get into it why, but I will say this, to me, it's still jarring how the whole idea behind the Pixel phone still aren't understood. And what do I mean by that? And I know I will say this now. When this episode goes live, I will also put a link to John Prosser's video because he's also doing a video over this topic as well. But I want to make this very clear from the get-go. This is not a video defending the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL. This is not. I'm going to acknowledge the flaws that come with this phone, but I'm also going to acknowledge some of the upsides that come with it and some of the benefits that a lot of people seem to not notice, or they're overlooking it because they believe these other areas are just too jarring of an issue. But let's get into it. So, what actually happened? So, like we thought, the Pixel 4 XL was, like, we already knew what it would look like. Google had leaked the phone. They had leaked the back. They had already leaked the whole Face ID features and gestures. They had leaked all of that in advance. And I find it funny how people say it's the most leaked phone in history. No, it is not, because it's not leaks if the company shows it off. So let's get that out of the way. It's not a leak if the company shows it off beforehand. The iPhone 11 was leaked heavily because we already knew what it would look like. So I'm not going to give the Pixel 4 the most leaked phone in history because, like I said, the company had already shown what it looked like beforehand. They took control of the leaks. And to me, this is not a leaked phone. This is yes, there were leaks for this phone, but the fact that Google came out and showed off what the phone would look like beforehand, I wouldn't say it's a heavily leaked phone. I'm not going to say that. It's not the most leaked phone in history. Let's get that out of the way. It's not. So let's clear the air on that one at least, if we're being fair. So what actually happened? So the phone came out the way we thought it looked. And yes, it's still pretty ugly, but I still like it. To me, I like the design a bit. Obviously, yes, I will say the back camera bump. Oh boy, jeez. Okay, at least it's not I will say this. Yes, it's still in a square the way that the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro look. Yes, I get it. But let's keep in mind that, I will say this as for me, the fact that it doesn't have the specific holes for each camera to make it look like a toaster oven makes it better in my opinion, but that's my opinion. I'll say that very clear. It's my opinion. And I think to me what's the most jarring thing is how everybody is weighing in on the downsides of this phone, and they're saying this is what makes the phone compromise so much. And you look on YouTube, type the Pixel 4 on YouTube. I'm literally scrolling YouTube right now, and these are all the taglines. Look, we got Pixel 4 review, inside the hype machine, the truth about the Pixel 4 XL. We have, obviously, camera comparisons. We'll get into that. We obviously have videos talking about Google may have cut too many corners. Pixel 4 review. What we really think about the Pixel 4. Pixel 4 versus Pixel 3. Don't be fooled. Pixel 4 review. It's a tough call. We have, it's so crazy. To me, obviously we have videos like Pixel 4, easier to buy, harder to recommend. 1 week later, Pixel 4 versus Pixel 3, what happened? Things to do, best Android like we have from another video, Android redefined but not perfected. We have all these things talking about like the downsides of this phone and emphasize it, because if you look at the video, they're primarily focused on the downsides. And yes, while they do show the benefits of this phone and its camera, to me it's still jarring because it shows that we still haven't fully understood what the Pixel represents. And to me, I have my own interpretation of how I view what the Pixel phone is. And not just this Pixel specifically, but I say the Pixel brand in general. And to me, in my mind, the Pixel phone 4 is not perfect. It's not. The Pixel 4 is not perfect. It isn't. Obviously, I agree with a lot of downsides. The fact that, battery life is pretty bad. I'll say that now. Obviously, yes, it's mainly because of the 90 hertz display, but, that's a draw side. People are complaining about the small batteries. They're complaining about the loss of front-facing speakers. They're complaining about the outdated design. They're complaining about the Soli, the Face ID stuff. They're complaining about the internal storage, like the lack of backups. Like, let's go through those. And I'll say this very clearly, and I want to focus primarily on, I want to start with the Face ID one. Look, stop complaining. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't complain about it, because yes, there are improvements that should be made, and I'm not going to justify this company for not including these fixes at launch, because they did say they will place a software update to help fix this. But it's the exact same thing that happened with the LG G8. The LG G8 included a hand gesture system, but at the same time, a lot of people were just focusing on the hand gestures. They were not focusing on what it actually meant, which it was Face ID. That's what it was. It was a genuine competitor to Face ID. And me and Juan have talked about this before, and we even mentioned it in an episode. Well, the tech community literally dogpiled the G8 for no reason, even though it presented a true competitor to Face ID. It presented a better competitor than Samsung because Samsung gave up on it. And then LG decides to put something in there and make it even more useful and add more features to it. The tech community was like, oh, this is a gimmick. This is pointless. And yet the iPhone still has the same big notch with the same sensors inside of it, and it still does Face ID, and people are like, oh, this is the future. Yeah. Totally not biased, guys. Totally. Let's totally say you guys aren't biased and that this isn't a whole, like, we just don't want to admit it. And it leads into the same Face ID, because think about it. When you look at what Google has invented, like, literally a lot of people are saying that the whole Soli thing is just, it's useless. It doesn't serve any purpose. It's just a gimmick. And I'm like, no, there are benefits. Like, we're not just going to say this is redundant technology. No, because it obviously made a good competitor to Face ID. It's very fast Face ID. Like, and it's actual Face ID, secure Face ID. Like, it's not like the OnePlus 7 Pro where the pop-up camera looks at your face, scans a light on it. No, this is true Face ID. And this is a competitor to iPhones. And a lot of people seem to be very critical about it, which I agree. It's first generation, but we also keep in mind this is still first gen. Like, for a first gen product, it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty good for Google's first try at this, because they had a lot of time to look at how Apple does it. And it's helpful, because when your competition does something for a good amount of time and they refine it, you can learn from them and understand how this works. It's just logic. It's common sense. And to me, it's still jarring that the community is like, oh, this is just a gimmick. This doesn't serve any, like, we want the fingerprint scanner, which I agree. Yes. I'll be honest with you guys. I think they should have kept the fingerprint scanner on the back, because, obviously now the Pixels don't have the slide notification function that came with the fingerprint scanner, which I agree. I miss it. To be honest, I missed that with my Pixel 2 XL. But I don't want to dogpile the Face ID, because it's Google's first try and it's actually pretty good. Like, I'm not justifying it, but because obviously the main compromise that comes with it is the whole bug that's going on where it can still scan your face even when your eyes are closed, which Google has gone on record and said, we are pushing out a software update to fix this. Like, we will have this out, be careful. And obviously, yes, I'm not going to give Google a slide on this one, because it should have been there to begin with. It shouldn't have this issue, but okay, they say they'll fix it. Let's hope they do. But onward to the next point, the outdated design. You guys are so ridiculous when it comes to this whole outdated design thing. Oh my Lord. But let's get on to it. So everybody complains like, oh, it has such a big, like, big top notch, and at the same time, it also has a big chin. Like, oh my Lord, you guys are dumb. I'm like, you guys are so crazy. Like, you guys are absolute crazy. Like, everybody's complaining about the screen to body ratio. Like, and let's keep in mind, and I find this funny because somebody posted this picture on Twitter, and they're like, people complaining about the screen to body ratio of the Pixel 4 XL, yet it has a higher screen to body ratio than the iPhone 11. And it has a higher resolution display. And even though, yes, some people are saying, well, Apple's working with an LCD, one's working with an OLED, they can do better, but at the same time, you can't get all those sensors into that small of a compartment. Like, if you're talking about, like, people are crazy enough, like we talked about it before with the 2020 iPhone, where they wanted it in the top grill of the earpiece. Like, you guys are crazy. That's not going to happen. Like, we've seen how big these sensors are. People, jerry-rig everything has shown how big these sensors are. There's no way you're fitting it in there. So let's keep that in mind. And to me, I like it better than the notch. I do. I'd rather have that big space up there with the earpiece and with the sensors and not have to worry about a notch and cut into it. Yes, and they even reduced the chin too, so that's actually a win. Now, granted, this has got rid of the double front-facing speakers, which I agree. Yes, it sucks because we miss it, but, the speakers are still good on the phone, so I'll say that now. Speakers are still good. Obviously, no headphone jack, RIP. Now, going into one of the complaints that I'd say to me is, I'd say fair because I agree with it, is the whole unlimited original backup for Google Drive, or Google Photos specifically. Yeah, I think it was a bad call for Google to get rid of that. I don't know why the Pixel 4s don't have that. It was one of the redeeming factors of owning a Pixel, because obviously everybody that, if you get Google Photos, you can get, high quality, unlimited storage for your photos, but it's not original quality, because that was the benefit with the Pixels, is that only the Pixels could have original quality backups, and unlimited too. And to me, it's kind of jarring that Google decided not to keep that. Is weird, but, I don't agree with it. I'm not going to try to justify it. I do think the company was really dumb for getting rid of it. I think it was a huge, huge bad call. Like, I'm not going to stand here and pretend like it isn't. It clearly is a bad call. Like, it is. I'm not going to pretend like it isn't, because like, it's dumb. Like, guys, really, come on, just keep the feature. Like, people like this feature. It's a benefit. Like, let them keep their benefits. But onward. Now, with the whole battery thing, yes, I do agree. I don't know what Google was thinking about, putting a small battery, especially in the Pixel 4 specifically, where you have a 90 hertz display. And I get it. There's obviously power improvements that come with the A55, but still, I do believe Google should have realized that, hey, putting this small of a battery in a phone with 90 hertz is not a good idea. It's not good for battery life, and it's not helpful. It doesn't last that long. Obviously, yes, the Pixel 4 XL has 3700 milliamps, but still, if you have the OnePlus 7 Pro, which has a bigger screen to body ratio, same resolution of display, and it's also running a 90 hertz as well, and I will say this, true 90 hertz, I'll add that thing in there because we'll get into it. Yeah, it has a 4000 milliamp battery, and it still has pretty decent battery life. Obviously, when you turn it off, it becomes a battery king. It has really good battery life when you turn it off, but you have a 90 hertz display to make it to feel smooth and buttery. And going into this actually is a really good transition into the 90 hertz thing. Yes, the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL have 90 hertz displays. That's great. It's good to see more manufacturers are going this direction, that they want to add it, even though, yes, I still think it's not absolutely necessary. I don't think that this shouldn't be a feature that makes it or breaks it. That's my opinion. I'll make that very clear. This is my opinion. Some people will say otherwise. Some people say, no, this is a deal breaker for me. I can't have something that's 60 hertz anymore. And, that's on you. But to me, I still think it's not necessity, but I like that they did it. Now, there's one thing though. With the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL, it's not really true 90 hertz. The reason I say this is it fluctuates. There are times where, depending if you're just doing something normal or you haven't used the phone in a while, it ramps back down to 60 hertz, which is why battery life for some people has been a little bit inconsistent, where some people are getting really poor battery life and some people are getting average battery life. And I will say this though, battery life is a very subjective thing depending on the user, so let's keep that in mind. but there's very inconsistent results. Now, granted, when you go into the developer options and enable the force, like the 90 hertz, then yes, it will be 90 hertz the entire time, but it will impact the battery life drastically, which is why people are getting inconsistent, because, you know, when you do the forced battery life, yes, you're getting really bad battery life for some people's standards. And if you didn't, and you just, you know, did it the way it was, smooth display and things like that, where if you haven't used it in a while, ramp down to 60 and it will ramp back up to 90, or sometimes it wouldn't, it will take longer. And, you know, some people say it feels janky, but, you know, that's people's opinions. But to me, it's kind of interesting that this is a talking point, because it's like, okay, who cares? To me, when I think of higher refresh rates on phones or mobile devices in general, I think it should be variable. I think it should vary depending on what you're using it for. If you're not using it all the time for like swiping and sliding, like for scrolling through notifications, you don't need 90 hertz, guys. You don't. Like, I think for more intensive tasks that can actually use like a high refresh rate, I think it's great to have it where it automates it. Like, obviously, like I said, with the iPad Pros, where the ProMotion display, where like it goes up to 120 hertz when you need it to go to 120 hertz. It won't just immediately be 120 hertz all the time. It will go between 60 and 120. It will ramp up when needed. And I think that's a good implementation, even though, yes, it's not a full 90 hertz, 120 hertz, 140. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's not an actual full one, but it ramps up. And I think overall that's a better implementation for me. From my perspective, it is. It's a better implementation. Now, granted, I think Google should make that a feature where when you enable smooth display, it either is going to force it to be 90 hertz all the time, or you can automate it and you can make it switch in between. So like if you don't need the 90 hertz, it won't. But if you do and you want it for these specific tasks, you can set it so it goes up to it. I think that's a healthy way of doing it. That's my opinion. But I still think that the fact that people are complaining about that and finding as a way to complain about stuff is kind of crazy. But oh well, that's, you know, I can't tell people what to do. But to me, the big thing is like the whole internal storage thing, and oh my Lord, like, yes, I get it. I get it that these phones shouldn't start with 64 base gigabytes of storage, especially when you're pushing 4K video and you're taking a lot of photos, especially that these are photo phones. To me, I think Google should have at least been smart about it and just made the phones 128 base. I think that would have been a much fairer thing. That would have been much better, and people probably wouldn't have been a bunch of pansies about it. But I think it's overall better to go in that direction, to make it, you know, just make it 128 base. But at the same time, as a person personally, I haven't used more than 64 gigabytes of storage on a phone. When I had my original Pixel 4, or Pixel 2 XL, what am I talking about? First I had the 128 gigabyte model, and then when I got another one, I got a 64 gigabyte model. I did not go past half of the storage on the 64 gigabyte model. And that was me taking a ton of photos, a ton of videos, and I didn't go past it. And some people were like, Josh, that's impossible. How couldn't you? Yeah. Like, that's my use case. I don't need a ton of storage. Like with my OnePlus 7 Pro, I have 256 gigabytes of storage on this phone. So far, like, if I'm accurate, and I'm checking correctly right now, like, I've only used, let me actually pull it up. I have only used 52 gigabytes of storage, but that's also because I'm taking more videos now. But I've only used 20%. Like, you know, like if I was using another phone, I wouldn't be taking that many photos. And that's also because I haven't been uploading my photos to my Google Drive, which is normally what I do, because I just keep them on the phone now. But you get what I'm saying. With the Pixels, 64 gigabytes works because of the whole unlimited storage, and with the Google Photos backup, original quality, it just makes sense to have them on the cloud, and it just saves space and storage. And to me, it's just crazy how, like, this is still a talking point, because I get everybody's use case is different. Like, some people don't want to spend that much money, and you know, this kind of leads into the next thing, was the price. People are complaining about $800 for this phone. Like, no. Like, people are like, I can get an iPhone 11 for $699. Why would I get a Pixel 4? The iPhone 11 is not competing with the Pixel 4, guys. It's not. The Pixel 4 is competing with the iPhone 11 Pro. That is what it's competing with. The 4 XL is competing with the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So people need to realize this. The 11 is not competing with anything right now. If anything, the iPhone 11 has a better shot of competing with the OnePlus 7 Pro, OnePlus 7T, and 7T Pro, because they made that now, and I don't know why, but they did. Like, it makes more realistic sense to compete with those phones than it does with the 4XL and the 4. It makes no sense. Why are we comparing the 11, like not a flagship phone, a affordable option, to a flagship phone? Why are we doing this? This makes absolutely zero sense. Like, people need to stop doing this because it's not a fair comparison. It's not. Logically, it makes no sense. Why are you trying to make an argument between a true flagship and a more affordable phone? Like, if anything, that's like saying you're better off comparing the Pixel 3a with the iPhone 11 or the XR, like, because they're affordable options from their respective companies. It makes more sense to compare them because this is what you're getting. If you spend this amount of money, you can get this and this and this. If you spend a little bit more, you get this and this. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if we look at the price comparison between the 4 and the 11 Pro, we're talking about a $200 difference. $799 to $999. $200 difference. Main things you get are, obviously, yes, like I said, the A13 Bionic is a phenomenal chip. So you're going to get a better chip. Camera performance, if you're talking about video specifically, you will get better video performance on the iPhone 11. If we talk about, I'd say specifically photography, it's more of a hands up. It really depends on, what side of the coin are we falling on, because this is something that's been popping up recently about people doing camera debates and things like that is, what are we comparing? And it's crazy. And we'll get into the camera stuff because that to me is what's interesting, because this is where, like I said, this is where I believe the Pixel brand specifically is falling under. And to me, what I believe the Pixel brand represents is it's an enthusiast brand for me. It makes sense that it's enthusiast. It's not meant to be an actual competitor. Google is not focused on selling these units. They're not making their money from hardware sales. They are a software company first. They make most of their money from Google, from Chrome. They make their money from ads. They make their money from, their software. They make money off that. It's not, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not based on hardware sales. It's not. The Pixel line is being sold at a loss because they know they're not going to sell a ton. But in the hands of people that enjoy these products, they like them. There's people that just genuinely like the Pixel brand. They are. Like, we're not going to stand here and pretend that people don't, because I personally love the Pixel brand. I do. I love my Pixel 2 XL. It was one of my favorite phones I've had. But that's because I cared about the camera. I cared about clean software. That's all I cared about. And obviously, yes, that's not everybody. Everybody wants more rounded experience. They want tons of features. They want tons of power in their phone. Like, they want specific things. And that's why I said there's a phone for everyone. There is always an option. This isn't your only option. And to me, yes, when it comes to the photo phones, if you just want a phone that takes good pictures, I would just buy a Pixel 3a. That's all what I would buy. If you want a Pixel 4 because of the whole features that are coming with the new cameras, which we'll get into the cameras a bit, even though I haven't really taken them, this is mainly just me, getting my, information that I'm getting and what I'm seeing and what I'm receiving. It's interesting because the cameras are great as usual. The Pixel 4 takes incredible stills, but the competition has caught up, specifically the iPhones. The iPhones now at night mode are presenting very good pictures with good detail. So it becomes much more difficult. And obviously, yes, when we include video, one of the concerns that people have is that Google decided not to make 4K 60 on the phone. Granted, I will say this. I believe they should have. And same thing with the front-facing camera, to not cap it at 1080p. I think, to be honest, to me, I think it should have been 4K 60 or in 1080 60 as well for the front-facing camera. I believe that they should have. I believe that they shouldn't have got rid of the wide-angle selfie camera. I think they should have kept that because a lot of people like that feature. But I think the camera in general is great. It's still one of the best still shot one-click cameras you can get. Now, granted, I'm not going to say this is a professional camera. I'm not going to say this is a pro camera. It's not. They're obviously, like I said, it doesn't have the pro features. It doesn't have a manual mode. Like Google software is an algorithm that basically makes it's that one click and go. It's that good that it's just a one click and go. And a lot of people like that. And that's what a lot of people like with their phones. They want the one click and go because they know they can get a good photo without doing much work. And, like I said, Google has this software down to a science. It just makes sense. It works. It just works. And it's incredible. And I can attest to that because I had my Pixel 2 XL and I loved it. I took some of the best photos I've seen at the time. And, to me personally, like I said, it's still fascinating that to me, people still don't get what the Pixel brand represents. Not the Pixel phones, the Pixel brand. It's an enthusiast brand to make things simpler. It simplifies everything. Why do you think the Pixel Book is literally just a laptop that works? It has good battery life, even though, yes, it runs Chrome OS, and I do understand that Chrome OS has some limitations, but it just works. It's a laptop that people need, and it works. Obviously, yes, Chrome OS needs to be updated, which I think eventually by the time we get there, and I've even talked about this with some of my professors who, are doing research in this area. Like, yeah, we're eventually going to get to the point that everything is going to run off a cloud and that, yeah, Google right now is ahead of their time. That they believe that Google is ahead of their time because eventually every application you run is going to be based off the cloud and you're not going to need actual like Windows or something like that. Now, granted, Windows will probably catch on to it because Microsoft doesn't want to be behind the beat on anything, but we do know that things are going to go to the cloud and Google's going to be ahead and they'll be prepared. So that's why the Pixel books and they're selling Chromebooks. And that's why the Chromebooks, if you think about it, as much as I don't like Chrome OS, the Chromebooks specifically own the K through 12 market easily. They own the market. They own the majority of stakes inside of it because people buy Chromebooks because they just work. It does what they need them. Take notes, do this assignment, do homework. That's it. It doesn't need to be crazy. Now, granted, there are specific for engineers, like they have issues with Chromebooks because they can't really run the engineering software. They can't. They're not meant to handle Chrome OS. Like they can't even run on Mac OS. Like it specifically runs on Windows. But once we get everything to run on the cloud and things like that, then yes, Chrome OS will be a good option, and then it becomes a more affordable option. And now, since everything's based off the cloud and you don't have to worry about your own hardware, you just need good battery life. Chromebooks will probably become top-selling laptops. You won't need these big, beefy machines. Like, granted, now I will say gaming and everything is different because I'm not going to say gaming is going to go in the same direction as professional engineering software or editing software or anything like that. But, it's going to make things... There's going to be a clear divide. There will be. And we're going to see it eventually. And this is why I said the Pixel line right now is ahead of its time because it's just making things work. It works. It's literally just that mindset. It's simple. It's straightforward. It's not needing to present itself. It just needs to sell that, hey, we have a good camera, clean software, and you're going to get software updates consistently because it's straight from Google. That's what you're getting. Specs and everything is good, but still, not for us, not that important. And people are complaining about the A55, that the fact that it has an A55 and an A55 Plus. Really, guys? Really? You guys are really going to complain about a barely overclocked 855? You're going to complain because you didn't get an overclocked 855? Really? Like, that's what the 855 Plus is. Literally just a minor increase in power. Minor increase. Like 5% at best. If I'm counting it, 5%. Around that range. 5%. It's not 10%. It's probably like 8% increase. That's all you're getting. Not that big of a difference. It's not going to impact your life. Now, one thing I will say that's interesting that Juan actually pointed out was the Pixel 4 actually is able to edit video at least 20% faster than the OnePlus 7 Pro, which is that's really impressive. That's actually pretty impressive. So kudos to Google for that. I'll give them a round of applause for that. To be honest, I would. But to me, I think the whole situation going on with the Pixel 4 is kind of dumb. And I will say this, you guys should be very careful with who you're getting your information from. Because, yeah, it just seems like everybody's dogpiling on this phone because they don't understand the meaning behind it. And I will leave a link to John Prosser's video when it goes live so that you guys can get John's perspective on this. Because John, he said the same thing. I'm literally pulling up John's Twitter right now. Like, I'll go on John's Twitter and I will repeat verbatim, word for word, what he said. Everyone is wrong about the Pixel. It's a shame to see the core tech community not understanding the bigger picture, facepalm, and then something nerds. And then he also clarifies, notice I didn't say Pixel 4. And then, yeah, like people are kind of making jokes. Like they can't understand the bigger picture because it has no ultra wide, which the ultra wide camera, like I get it. Like they should have just put it, but you know, I get where Google's coming from, but still, like, let's not go up in the air crazy about not having an ultra wide camera. It's more of just a nice thing to have. I think they should have put it, but I'm not going to go out of my way and say, oh, this makes the phone useless. It has no value. No. And this is funny. Look at how John's response to this. And this is why I say I'm going to leave a link to this video when it goes live because it's going to be great. Somebody argued, it down throttles the 90 hertz almost constantly. The XO has disappointing battery. It's dimmer than an iPhone 5. Doesn't have wide angle. Doesn't have 4K 60 in 2020. Face ID clone considerably flawed. Missing storage, cloud and internal. Old design. Slightly dated and unoptimized hardware. And John's response, and you made a list of irrelevant things. Congratulations. When you hear what I'll have to say, it'll make sense. And a lot of people are interested how we're going to see. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what John does because I agree. There is a bigger picture here. Like, it's crazy. To me, like, I kind of like how Snazzy Labs responded where he says the Pixel doesn't sell to normal people. John, you know that. Google has alienated their only fan base. And then people are trying to respond. Google is trying to make a phone that will sell to more people than their fan base, which is what they did, and they did it well. And they did. They did it well. It's just people want to complain. But, you know, like, it's... Oh, my Lord. This is, like... It's so crazy. Like, it's going to be interesting. I personally think this whole drama about the Pixel 4 and, like, you know, questioning if it's even worth it or not. Guys, I would say be careful what you think about. Like, wait till you get actual hardcore, like, big picture thinking here. To me, the Pixel represents simplicity. That's what the Pixel line represents. It's simple. It's planning for the future. Because, like I said, the specs do not matter. Like, yes, I do believe your devices should be able to last, but still, like, the specs do not matter. This is not a race of specs. This is a race of how good you can optimize your hardware. And I do believe Google has made some incredible strides this year. They made the camera better. They added features that none of the competition has. The Face ID, while flawed, is still good Face ID. It is an actual competitor to Apple's Face ID. Samsung can't even make a competitor. They gave it up because they couldn't figure it out. And you guys are complaining that Google, because they made the attempt to make something actually competitive, it's garbage, it's flawed. No, I would say Samsung, you guys gave up on it. Why are you guys talking? Like, Samsung Knights, they're crazy, but still. To me, I would say listen to John's video when it goes live. I'll make sure I'll update the episode when that video goes live. And at the same time, I hope you guys, you know, wait for informed discussion, actual detailed breakdowns, not just 1 week impressions, not 1 week reviews. People like Juan are taking their time, reviewing their phone, and get genuine, hard researched videos that actually go through and break down the phone. I think that's what you should do. That's the best way to go about this, because this entire situation is literally just turning into just an entire crazy stuff. It's going insane because everybody is just jumping on the bandwagon to beat this phone up, and they're not seeing the bigger picture. I hope you guys enjoy. I love you guys to death. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Again, thank you guys so much for coming back and listening. It really means a lot to me. You guys keep coming back. Obviously, the Patreon stuff is still being worked out. We're working on getting the video, uploaded to Patreon, but I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys for your continued support and constantly listening to these episodes. It really means a lot to me. I'm going to see you guys next week. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, guys. Don't do anything dumb. Please be safe. And obviously, yes, I will try to be safe here because we're probably about to get snow and it's freezing cold. But I hope you guys enjoy. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.